starting off with season 2, episode 1, was The Ex-Girlfriend, which I think is a very simple, yet one story episode, basically. Most of the, until we get to the bus boy, which is in a couple episodes, most of the first few episodes in the early Seinfeld series, of course, seem to be a very one story based episode with some, small subplots. But I think over time, some of the subplots became like bigger impacts to the story, which we'll talk about, of course, a little bit of like a turning point in the writing for Seinfeld when we get to the busboy episode. But The Ex-Girlfriend, as I said, was a decent but very one-storied episode, I felt, in my opinion. Based on, everyday, kind of another everyday life scenario with, breaking up with someone, and then the best friend is kind of cooking with her afterwards, if you know what I mean. So the story is the episode started off with George in a car with Jerry, and just complaining about how, he really can't stand the girl Marlene he's going out with. She's very, overbearing, very clingy, very controlling, very strange, and a little difficult, which I could see. It felt like she was wearing the pants in that relationship, it felt like. She even squeezed "I love you" out of George. George said "I love you" to this woman, apparently. Even though, when we get to a later episode, I think it was in season 6, or whatever it was, whenever George said "I love you" to that Sienna, he claims the only time he ever said "I love you" was once to a dog. He sniffed herself, and he sniffed itself and walked out of the room. But, George obviously, was struggling to be, the breaker-upper, the one who breaks up, which I don't know how that feels, even though I've had a couple girlfriends in the past. Knock on wood, I've never been the breaker-upper. I've been in situations wherever I was, talking to someone, but I'm like, this ain't working. I've been able to say, I'm not interested in really pursuing this, I say further. But I've never actually broken up with someone I actually did commit to, as far as an actual relationship. So George struggled. In the midst of all this, the two, sub-stories we have, that's kind of in the background, was Kramer bragging about this cantaloupe and trying to get Jerry to try it. And then Jerry brought home this cantaloupe from the supermarket or something like that. And then Kramer was obsessed with telling Jerry, this ain't good cantaloupe. This is terrible. You gotta take this back. Which of course would then lead to an actual episode, the Mango, in season 5, episode 1, where we actually did have Kramer return the bad piece of cantaloupe to a grocery store, in which Kramer got banned. And the other one, of course, was Elaine was. And here's the thing about Elaine. Here's the scenario where, again, Elaine was a great character, probably one of the more successful ones out of the core 4, with holding steady jobs, dating life, wasn't too bad, but gotta be real. She definitely had a lot of very, very petty things. It's like, what's the point of obsessing over this? So, her story was, she was telling this story about a guy who, who lived in her building, who they would always stop and, just, make casual conversation with. Well, over time, went from, great conversation to a, hey, how you do, to just a sup nod. And then, nothing. Snub. Or just doesn't even acknowledge at all. So Elaine, even though she has no interest in this guy romantically, is just obsessing with the fact that this guy went from, full on, hey, how you doing? Even though there was some episodes where Elaine's expressed that she's not a casual conversation person. Went from that to basically nothing. But by the end of this episode, Elaine basically confronts the guy and, says, well, why did you do that to me? He goes, I just got tired of saying hi all the time and whatnot. And then Elaine basically said, this was all just to basically prove this guy, I know you stopped, and I'm just telling you, I've noticed, basically. Again, something super petty, but so, entertaining all at the same time. Like I said, they took some, Seinfeld, again, just always seemed to take something and really, somehow so entertaining. Even though if it was, dull or petty, or something, so simple, or something that's, supposed to be sad, but sounds ridiculous. Again, like I said, for most of these reviews so far, as someone said, I forgot which, I'll have to point out whenever I've watching Inside Look for it, but I remember there was a time where they said that this show should have been called Dumb Luck, because even though these 4 core characters, even though sometimes they kind of deserve what they got, some of the scenarios they got himself into was just all out of just dumb luck, especially in the next episode we get to. But anyways, those are like some of the subplots. And also kind of one also was George also had a little bit of like some back problems. His back was bothering him, and he went to a chiropractor, and he was living there for like 2 minutes, and they charged him $75, and he refused to pay the $75. And I think he only paid half. I think it was, because we'll get to in a second, of course. I don't want to spoil too much. But anyways, George pulls the trigger. And he breaks up with Marlene. And then he says, I'm out because there's only one problem, though. He goes, I left some books over at her place. But he doesn't want to go back to get them, because once he's out, he's out. He's worried that if he goes back, then he'll get pulled back in. Such a line later on he would say is, every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. So he's trying to get Jerry to go get the books off Marlene. And then Jerry's like, what's the big deal about books? And George is like, but they're my books. Like, he was obsessed over these 3 silly little books. So Jerry meets Marlene at Monk's. And they end up, again, actually having lunch. And again, being very overbearing and whatnot, Jerry, she just all talk. She's doing most of the talking. Kind of like how Joel Hornick was in Male Unbonding, except it's a female version. But, Jerry's not going to deny that, he kind of enjoyed his time with her. And she's left some messages on Jerry's answering machine. And some very weird ones, like, just some random thing like, Jerry, do you ever think about this in a bathtub or whatnot? Or she always says that, Jerry, I just don't know. Like just a big, dramatic thing, basically. But, again, very self-centered and very overbearing. But, of course, Jerry was telling George about this, how she's basically still trying to, keep in touch with him and whatnot. But, of course, George didn't think anything out of it at the time. But they both did admit they thought she was quite sexy. And then at the halfway point of the episode, I think they went out to see a movie together or something like that. And they kissed a little, apparently. And Jerry's like, even though he knows that, it's his best friend's ex-girlfriend, he's like, he can't help it. Like, he's attracted to this woman like crazy, even though she's super crazy and super overbearing. Eventually, though, he gets up nerves. He asks George to dinner. And he tells George that, hey, I'm been kind of seeing Marlene, and it's kind of going to something different. George was cool with it. And he's like, you don't care if I go out there tonight? He's like, go for it. Have a good time, But then, of course, this is why I didn't want to spoil it. Jerry was like, I should also say while I'm out that I did pay for, the second half of that bill for the chiropractor he didn't pay for. And that's where George flips out. George was more upset that Jerry paid half of a bill for a chiropractor that George thought he was getting ripped off of than Jerry actually going out with his ex-girlfriend. But the episode ends with one of the most classic, ways at the end. Again, dumb luck. I'm going to keep referring to this. Dumb luck. They're in the car as Jerry's getting ready to drop off Marlene, and he asks him, of course, if he could stay. Marlene goes, Jerry, I don't know. I don't think this isn't going to work. And it's like, well, why not? He goes, I guess things change. I don't know. Well, first he was like, I don't want to talk about it. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, how bad could this be? And of course, it's really it's like a really, that's it, with how overbearing and dramatic this woman was. This is what causes her to pull the plug on everything? She goes, I guess things changed for me on Tuesday night. And Jerry's like, what the heck happened Tuesday night? Saw your act. Wasn't that big of a fan of it. And I can't be with someone they don't respect what they do. And Jerry's like, you're a cashier! And, it wasn't my way. And then Jerry's like, round off, like, oh, come see me on these nights. I have good material these nights. But she pulled the plug on it. And that's how the episode ends. So a very overbearing woman, someone who kind of wears the pants in the relationship, ends it because I saw your ad and it wasn't good, so that's it. We're done. I can't respect someone like that. I can't be with who they respect what they do. It's like a bad piece of material or whatnot, but it's just like, it was just crazy. Dumb luck, as he said before. Dumb luck, as this show should have been called. Not really just many fun facts. Actually, two of them I want to mention is apparently the woman who played Marlene, who is her name was Tracy Collis. She also played the role of Kelly, the waitress in The Soup, in which George takes out on a date, but then she lies to George about having a boyfriend, just maybe say like in a nicer way, hey, I'm not interested in you, but just a way to get George off her back. And also, a couple people did audition to play Marlene. One of them was Heidi Sweetberg, who went on, of course, to play George's future fiancée, Susan Ross. A couple of fun facts there, but not much. Anyways, like I said, decent episode, but again, I said, it was a very one-storied episode. Like I said, most of the first several, episodes very like one-sided. When we get to the busboy, though, like I said, there was like a kind of like a turning point in the writing for the show when we get to the busboy episode. But that'll be next. No, that's sorry, that's 2 episodes away. I think next is the pony remark. Ooh, that's a good one. The pony remark. Talk about dumb luck. Yeah, this one was savage. We'll get to that one though next, guys. So, guys, as always, thank you again for watching my Seinfeld reviews. As again, we're now entering season 2 now. Be sure, as always, guys, to slap a like on the video, subscribe. Subscribe. Wow, I got tongue twisted there. Subscribe for more content to come on my channel, and follow me on Twitter as well at DemandAirboy93. So, guys, I'll check it out. I'll see you guys all later in the next Seinfeld review, which again is the pony remark. Have a good rest of your day. Peace out, everybody.